Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry that I missed yesterday. I didn't feel well. Sorry about that. And my light is blinking way too fast. Um, Today I'm going to be hi, Cupie. Today I'm going to talk about Hawaiian legends. Now, all the islands, well, basically all places have legends and myths and things like this. And I thought I'd start with the 50th state of our country, my country, that is, um, which is Hawaii. And there have been enough strange things that have happened there through the centuries that a lot of these legends were there way before. Hi, Scott. Way before uh, Captain Cook or any other Europeans arrived there. Most of these legends are very old legends. And I wanted to share some of them with you because they're really interesting and they're kind of creepy. And and I think the one that most people know is Pele, the goddess of the volcano. And you know that Disney movie with the Hawaiians girl was really interesting because it did take into the traditions and myths that came uh, way before the uh, Europeans got there. Anyway, so Pele, the volcano goddess, is the first one I'm going to talk about. And she's the goddess of the volcano. Now, obviously, they have eruptions of their volcanoes every year, as far as I know, uh, or threats of them. So we see them all the time. And they just sort of move out of the area, let it do its thing, and then come back when it's done. Um, but the reason she has these, the story of her legend, it says, I'm looking at nucreations.com. Um, Her volcano powers came to be known during a bad breakup with the lover, Kamaapua'a, when she came looking for her, when he came looking for her after she hid in the tunnels and the caverns of, these are going to be hard words, Kilauea. Legend has it that he called and called out to her. And then in answer to him, the earth shook, and he looked up the slope to see a hot molten lava slithering toward him. Guess that was that her answer? Although he escaped to the ocean, the bushes, trees, and local neighborhoods were set ablaze. According to the local legends, to really get on Pele's good side, you have to visit her at the Halaema Uma'au crater and give offerings of foods, flowers, and her favorite alcohol, gin. Now, I have a hard time believing they had gin in the Hawaiian Islands. In Hi, Mindy. I don't think they had gin on the Hawaiian Islands before the white man came. Somehow, I just have a hard time believing that one. But she likes it, so it's all good. Um, Another legend about Pele is that people meet her along the highway. Maybe you heard, maybe you're driving down the Pali Highway, and and your car breaks down or something, or maybe you see something weird, or you see this young girl or this old lady along the side of the road, and she'll either look like a beautiful woman with long flowing hair, an older woman with long white hair. You must greet her with aloha and offer to help her. To really get on her good side, you offer food, flowers, and gin. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if how many women walking along the road are offered gin, but you never know. Um, and the Pali is a road that connects Honolulu with the windward side of Oahu. Apparently, Pele and the demigod Kampa'aua, a half man, half pig, had a bad breakup and agreed never to visit each other. So if you try to bring pork over the Pali, the road, you are you're symbolically trying to bring Kamapua'as from one side of the island to the other, and Pele will stop you because she doesn't want to see any pork. It reminds her of her ex, apparently. If you try, according to legend, your car will stop at some point on the journey. An old woman will appear with a dog. You have to feed the pork to the dog in order to continue through. Yeah, don't mess with that lady. One of the most famous myths in Hawaii is Pele's curse. You'll hear about her a lot if you go there. Which by all accounts, according to what I've read here, is not such an ancient myth at all. Pele's curse says that any tourist who takes rock or sand away from the islands will suffer terrible luck until the native Hawaiian elements are returned to their homeland. I'm sure this doesn't include sand in your shoes, hopefully, but I'd make sure I'd shake them all out. To skeptics, this is, they think it's because a park ranger was getting annoyed with people stealing lava rocks, etc., and made up the curse, etc., etc. And we know sand gets everywhere. Regardless of this, every year hundreds of packages arrive back to Hawaii full of rock, sand, and other environmental materials in the hope that it will clear their conscience and change their utterly terrible luck they've been having. So they feel they've been cursed by Pele for taking this stuff from the island. Well, I imagine, pork. I don't know if you've had luau pork, but it's really good. My sister had a boyfriend who was Hawaiian who he could do a luau, and all the food was just amazing, just so good. And it was in California, so what they do is they build a fire and have a bunch of rocks they heat up. They dig a hole. They put the rocks in the hole that are very hot. They put banana leaves down. They put the pig in there, whole pig except the guts, And I don't know, maybe they put an apple or pineapple in its mouth. I don't know. And then they cover it with more leaves, and they cover it with more rocks, and then they cover it with more leaves, etc. And it stays there all day. And so you have, pork is a big thing there because it's traditional. But apparently you don't take it over the Pali Highway because Pele has an issue with pork. Reminds her too much of her ex. You know how that can be, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me get back to what I was saying. Now, and it's kind of funny how almost every culture has a story about little people. I mean, really little people, like leprechauns and pixies and things like this. And in Hawaii, they're called the menehune. And they're small, dwarf-like people who lived in the forests and valleys since before the Polynesian settlers. They hide from people. They're supposed to be excellent craftsmen, being able to build things, and like the Menehune fish pond on Kauai, supposedly they built that. I've never been there, so maybe someday. Also, according to Hawaiian legends, it's said to have constructed an aqueduct called the Menehune Ditch, which is also on Kauai. This is especially notable because it was completed before Western engineering techniques were known, and it's said to be having been done in one night. So I don't know. That's interesting. So they have some things that they don't know who built them. And I think a lot of the islands, I know that Palau has pyramids in terraced areas that nobody really knows who did them. It's back in prehistory, even pre-oral history, I guess. So anyway, about the Menehune. They're a mischievous group of small people or dwarves hidden in the forests. They roam around at night. They are supposed to be like 2 feet tall, so they're pretty small. And though some are as tiny as 6 inches tall, like little pixies, small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. They like to dance and sing. They like archery, and their favorite foods were bananas and fish, not all at once, however, I'm sure. They have been known to use magic arrows to pierce the heart of angry people, igniting feelings of love instead. Now, doesn't that sound like uh, the mythological dude that Cupid that shoots people and makes them fall in love, you know? I always thought, arrows shooting someone, that's like, love is painful, apparently. They like to cliff dive. They're smart, very strong. They're very good craftsmen, it says. Rarely seen by human eyes. Yeah, apparently they are credited for building temples, fish ponds, roads, canoes, and houses. So the historic ditch I mentioned, the Menehune Ditch, funnels water from Waimea River on Kauai. Archaeologists think the fish pond they're credited with building is over 1,000 years old. And how they built the fish pond for a princess and her brother, they lined up in a double row stretching 25 miles or 40 kilometers to a distant Makaweli. The workers passed stones hand to hand to build the pond, like a bucket brigade. No one ever sees them work, apparently. I guess there's probably a curse on you if you do catch them in some way. Some people say they can hear them. Some people still believe they roaming the islands, carrying out tricks on people. In an 1820 census, they carried out a census in Kauai, listed 65 people as Menehune. How about that? That's crazy, huh? Hi, Claire. Hi, Bob. The djinn, the spiders just need wiping out. Do you have a spider called a djinn? That's the wrong kind of djinn, I would think. There's also legend. There's always legends of. There's so many. I'll put the links up when I put it up. It's like there's so many legends. There's a legend about the Nauapaka flowers, which I'll put a link up on that. There's a picture that you can see. They look like half a flower, and they grow in two places, along the beach and along the mountains. And supposedly, one lover lived in the mountains, and the other lived on the shore. And of course, they were star-crossed lovers. And she fell in love. Nauapaka was a beautiful princess, fell in love with a commoner named Kauai. Kaui, I guess it is. That's like a Romeo and Juliet thing. And according, she professed her love to her common boyfriend, commoner. She took a flower from her hair and tore it in half, giving one half to Kaui, then retreated to the mountains, and he remained along the ocean. The legend says the nearby plants were so saddened by the scene of the parting lovers that they began to bloom only half flowers in honor of the separated couple. You may even find some jewelry or Hawaiian souvenirs with this flower theme. And it's interesting that they bloom in two places, and only two places, which is kind of indigenously kind of weird. And of course they have, I don't think Scott likes spiders now. He'd have to have his mother save him again if he had a spider. You know, she went after it, remember, with a broom or a mop or something. Yeah, Melinda's one of my gaming girls. We're heroes. We're heroes. Yes, we are. Of course, there's a fisherman god, of course, you know, because that's a source of their food is the ocean. So they do offerings to a small shrine because the reverence was always able to land an abundance of fish. So this is where some of the tiki carvings might be from this. Let me look here. At the end here, I'm going to tell you about a really spooky part, one really scary legend that really creepy. So, okay. Trying to do this in some kind of logical order. There's even a hula goddess. According to them, there's like 3 male gods and 3 female goddesses. So they're very balanced in their beliefs, and they've had female leaders and male leaders. So they're probably more matriarchal before the Europeans arrived. A lot of the indigenous cultures were, until Christianity turned them into patriarchal points of view. But the beautiful Laka, the hula goddess, has domain over many plants, flowers in the forest. And you'll see when you're on vacation there, if you attend any hula performances, you may see an altar that's been prepared in honor of Laka. There's specific and special plants that are dismantled after the dance, and sometimes the altar is dismantled. Every leaf is taken to the ocean or deep stream to honor the goddess. Her special flower, the male flowers, are commonly used to make leis, which are draped over the neck, etc. So that's done with that one. There's also the legend of Nanaue, the Shark Man. Black-Eyed Children. I'll do a show on Black-Eyed Children if you'd like. If you can, don't watch it at night though. Black-Eyed Children are just terrifying, and there are so many accounts of people seeing them. Creepy. Creepy stuff. I'm sorry, Bob. When you use the talk to text, that can get interesting too. Even though I speak pretty much generic English, it still will get things wrong, and you wonder, I'm speaking very clearly. How can you mistake what I'm saying? I believe people see them. I don't know what they are. They also see black-eyed adults too. And sometimes this is somehow associated with the Men in Black on top of it. So it's like, or aliens. It's like, I don't know. When I research the black-eyed kids, when I do that, it's going to be creepy. It is creepy. There's no way around it. It's just plain creepy. There's been so many sightings of these things. Just so many. And so the legend of the Shark Man, it's the usual story. Kamahoali'i, the king of all sharks in the region, was swimming just below the surface where a beautiful woman named Kalei bathed. And of course, she was skinny dipping, of course. And he was totally entranced by her beauty. And he's a shapeshifter, so he turned into a man and went in the form of a chief, in search for this beautiful woman. And he walked among the people as a chief and ate and communed with the people of that area. In time, he found her and they fell in love and married, and she became pregnant with this child. Before the child was born, the Shark King knew that his time had come to return to the sea. He never revealed his true identity. Man, if you're the Shark King, tell me. Instead, he instructed her to give birth alone and watch over his child, who was to be his son. Never allow the baby to eat flesh of any animal. And he left, and he loved her, always loved her, and returned to the ocean. They never saw each other again. And one dark night, as the island winds whipped furiously through the valley, says the Hawaiian.com Legends website says, she gave birth to the Shark King's son. She was afraid and sad when she saw the baby was born with a deformity on his back, a large open hole that resembled a gaping fish mouth. Oh, that's gonna hamper his dating possibilities, don't you think? She wrapped the baby and to hide the deformity from others. That night she cried as she rocked her newborn son, for he was as beautiful as she, besides the disturbing deformity. She named him Nanau'i, Nanaue. They pronounce every letter, so Nanau'i. That's how to say it. She kept him away from meat, but she couldn't protect him for long. Back in ancient times, men and women were not allowed to eat together. When he came of age, his grandfather took him to eat with the men. He was fed meat for the first time and developed a voracious and insatiable appetite. The gaping mouth on his back grew rows of sharp teeth. After that day, when Kalei took her son to bathe in the stream, she watched in horror and fascination as he took the form of a young shark. He would swim and play in the water in fish form, chasing and eating the small creatures in the stream. And she, as the child grew into a man, his shark form also grew, of course. After he would swim in the ocean, people would go missing. A great shark would come out of the water and tear his fellow swimmers limb from limb. Well, shark does what shark does, right? Well, these are myths and legends of Hawaii, so yeah, this isn't necessarily true. But I mean, this is part of what shapes their culture, these beliefs. So this is important if you go to Hawaii, that imagine how much you'll impress people. You'll be familiar with the legends. So obviously, he married a chiefess, a female chief, which, like I said, they're more matriarchal on these indigenous cultures on these islands. They don't suppress women like they do other places. One night, his hunger took a hold of him, and he kidnapped a young girl, ran to the ocean, shape-shifted, don't say that 3 times quickly, and devoured her in plain sight of all. The people of Maui were outraged. They tried to spear Nanau'i from canoes, but he swam quickly towards Molokai. Swim fast. So the Molokai people kept looking for the strange man shark. Finally, they saw Nanau'i shape-shifting in the sea, and he thought that no one was watching. They snared him while in shark form and beat him with clubs until the ocean was red with his blood, and they chanted continually. His shark body was dragged to shore, where he was chopped into pieces and incinerated in a large oven. Thus died the king of the sharks. That'll learn you, you know. Well, that's kind of how it works. Here's an interesting one, the ghost sisters of Hilo Hills. And these always start out with the gods and goddesses of the past. And you wonder if, we talk about the past civilizations and stuff. You wonder if some of these are, that's right, Zach, eat people bad. That these are always in the distant past and other beings that were there. And this is pretty consistent all over the world that they have these other beings that had this civilization before people were the people we were there. So it's hard to say, especially the way things have becoming stranger and stranger. It's hard to say if some of the stuff, hi Simon, some of the stuff is rooted in events and been, enlarged or whatever, but there's some truth to them. You wonder if there is. And it's interesting being that so many cultures have similar stories. And so you wonder, well, was there just one culture at one time, when Pangea, when all the continents were together, that very ancient culture that was universal in some way. So you have to think, well, maybe there was, because we see these similarities with pyramids and writing and linguistics. There are native words that are very similar to other words from other places. It's, if you study linguistics, which would take a long time to do it properly, but it's fascinating because you wonder if so many similar stories. And, well, that's for another day, I guess. Well, anyway, let's look at this legend of the ghost sisters of Hilo Hills. And this story is with the goddess Haina, mother of Maui, who was thought to have married the moon. Well, that's what I call distance. Haina had two daughters, and the mistress of fire and the mistress of rain. I'm just going to give up on the names because you won't remember them anyway. And Haina gave 2 mountains to her daughters, and these hills were especially rich and fertile, and the sisters and their people settled on these lands and prospered. And here they're talking about a drought. A drought occurs. Everything became dry. The taro plant and the hillsides died. There are places in the Hawaiian Islands that are dry, that are part of a rain shadow. They don't get much rain, and they are very dry. So it isn't all just lush, because they have some serious mountains there. It's not all lush green stuff. So there are places that are not. But the taro plant died. The bananas and sugar cane and sweet potatoes withered, and the fruit of the trees died. And the villages became hungry, and then famine, and then people started dying. And Haina knew something had to be done to save her followers. So she instructed men to cross a riverbed where no water flowed and enter the dry forests of Koa and Ohia and gather firewood. The priests went on the expedition. Everything they do, and this is I think this is pretty common for most of the island people. They're always singing or chanting when they're canoeing, when they're working. They sing. And in Hawaii, this is very, very prevalent. Even now, they do sing when they do things beautifully. And they were singing and uttering incantations against failure, offered prayers and sacrifice for return of the men. They gathered what they could and brought back to Hawaii Hill, and they dug out the hill, making a big cooking oven. Now, I'm not sure where this is going here. They arranged a pit as if they were going to cook a big feast. And then she asked them to make a place for human sacrifice. So almost every culture seems to have done human sacrifice when there is despair and famine, and nature doesn't follow what they need to survive. So they figure the greatest sacrifice of all is necessary. And so they did as she asked, and they were looking forward with dread, to say the least. But Haina Kiahi was Haina the kind, and she surveyed their work, said it was good, but she was full of pity and love for her people. And she says, "This imu is my imu, or imu. I shall lie down in its bed of burning stones. I shall sleep under its cover." So she's sacrificing herself. She says, "I may perish. Quickly throw the dirt over my body. Fear not the fire. Watch for 3 days. A woman will stand by the pit." So the goddess lays in the pit on the burning stone. And the men do what she asked. They watch over the oven, and I hope they don't eat her. And she sank through the Imu into the underground pass, which belonged to the spirit world. And one day later, a gushing stream of water flowed from the land. So they were given water. And soon a woman appeared by the Imu, who commanded the laborers to dig away the dirt and open up the oven. When this is done, to their amazement, found a great abundance of food. Well, so that she did provide food for them. Interesting. Meanwhile, that was the one sister. The other sister was jealous of her beautiful sister, heard of the miracles her sister had performed, and the singing and praise received from her people. And her people were also suffering from famine. And she ordered a great Imu to be dug, and same thing of human sacrifice. I can't talk. Yet in her jealousy, she forgot that she was the goddess of rain, and that rain and fire would not work together. She entered the pit and quickly covered her with mats and earth. She waited for miraculous events to occur, but the hot stones destroyed her, and she rose as rain cloud above Imu. They waited for 3 days, 5 days. No one appeared, and they're still starving. On the 5th day, the villagers opened the Imu and found nothing but ashes, and her people perished. And they say that the ghosts of the sisters still appear in the old hills from time to time as flowing lava, and one as flowing lava and the other as clouds of rain. So they have origin myths for everything, apparently. Well, I don't think they eat people. They didn't eat her. She manifested food for them, so they didn't technically eat her. Yeah. Let me see. There's one, I think we talked on, there's another one called Puna. Puna, the dragon goddess. Now, it's interesting too, if you think about most of the major cultures have dragons of some kind. And well, I think that Hawaiian pizza, that the pineapple comes from Honduras and down South America, and not Hawaii. So you're safe, Scott. So you're okay. But the dragon goddess, and her name was, let's see, where am I going? Puna. Well, not Puna. Puna's the Puna. Okay, here we go. It always seems to be like there's always this conflict going on. And this is so common with these myths and legends. There's always, it's just like it's like a drama. You have to have the protagonist and the antagonist and then a problem, and then they have to fight it out. This is, very true for most stories. In Hawaiian mythology, there were two main goddesses worshipped in the temples. It's Kiha Wahine and Hamameia. And when it's time for Haumea to marry, she took the chief of Oahu, Puna, as her husband. She wasn't aware, however, that Kiha Wahine wanted Chief Puna to be her husband too. Triangles, right? One day, Puna was lured out to sea by Kiha Wahine while looking for the perfect surf spot. Puna was taken to Molokai, where the couple, it says in quotes, lived together in a cave for quite some time before he discovered that she was, in fact, a dragon goddess with a cruel temper. Well, as they say, marry in haste, repent with pleasure. Or no, that's not. In leisure, repent with leisure. That's it. I don't think repenting is pleasurable. Marry in haste, repent at leisure. I can't talk. Anyway, they lived in a cave for quite some time, and he found out she was the dragon goddess with the cruel temper. Isn't that always how it works? He was able to escape with the help of his brother-in-law, Hinole, and made his way back to his wife, Haumea, though Kiha Wahine never stopped looking for him. Isn't that sad? Yeah, I know. I've never heard of a dragon in Hawaiian mythology, so it might be an ME. But we're seeing them everywhere, aren't we? We're seeing dragons everywhere. Yeah, technically a pineapple isn't a fruit, it's a berry, apparently, probably another effect. Well, I don't know. It's an awfully big berry, if you ask me. Well, I have a hard time believing it's a berry because it's a monocot. And I've never heard of monocots having berries. Really. There's a myth about plucking a certain flower, the red lehua flower, that it's supposed to be bad luck. Because it's always the same story, though. Ohia and Lehua were young lovers. But then Pele, that lady of the volcano, met Ohia and decided she wanted him for herself. And when he reacted to her, she turned him into an ugly, twisted tree. Jealousy. Ignored his girlfriend's pleas to change him back. And the other gods, feeling sorry for the young girl, turned her into a beautiful red flower and placed her on the tree so the lovers never had to be apart again. Why didn't they just turn him back into a person? So legend says, as long as the flowers remain on the tree, the weather is sunny and fair, but when a flower is plucked, rain falls like tears, as Lehua cannot handle being separated from her love. Now I want to talk about the one that's the part that's really kind of creepy. And that's the night marchers. Now they've been seen. I'm not sure it's a legend, yet it's something people have seen. So that's kind of weird. Yeah, but a pineapple's a monocot. It grows on a spike, and the leaves are straight. It has to do with, I took botany, and I don't want to go explain it. Anyway, the night marchers. Got to talk about, it's a ghost story. the best site for this. They're the ghosts of ancient Hawaiian warriors that are said to roam the islands at night, visiting old battlefields and sacred sites. If you hear chanting, drums, or marching, or if you see torches, you're supposed to run inside, lie quietly on your stomach, and if you make eye contact with the night marchers, you will die and be forced to march with them for all eternity. So you're supposed to, if you hear the sound of drumming. I remember reading a story of someone who was camping near the beach that actually heard them singing, drums, or marching. And so you're supposed to get out of there or not look at them. You're not supposed to look at them. They are said to come forth from burial sites or rise up from the oceans, according to Wikipedia, and to march in large groups to ancient Hawaiian battle sites. They usually have a king or a leader with them that they're marching for. They're normal sized, dressed for battle, carrying spears, clubs, and some are beating war drums and blowing tones on conch shells to announce the advancing of their march. They are also suspended in the air. They do not touch the water or ground when they walk, leaving no evidence of their visitations. They march after sunset and march as a group continuously until just before sunrise. So this is creepy. This is definitely creepy. The tea plant, which we had, is supposed to protect your house from evil spirits in Hawaii. So if you have tea plant around one's home, it'll cause these night marchers to avoid your place. If you're of the same bloodline as some of the marchers, one of the marchers, if they encounter a mortal and it's one of theirs, they'll call out na'u, which means mine in Hawaiian, and no one will harm them. No, the people in the procession won't harm them. But you have to lie motionless, face on the ground to show proper respect. So, probably Americans would run out and say, "What's that?" They're going to. The ceremony and conduct of the march is customized to the taste of its honored warrior leader that they have with them, a Hawaiian king or chief. If they were fond of music, they'd be honored with much drumming and chanting. If they liked it quiet, it would be quiet. And they were usually carried by the warriors. And in ancient Hawaiian lore, the laws declared body parts of a king or chief to be sacred, not to be seen by a mortal. So violating mortal is incinerated instantly, and the bodily remains dissipate as vapors in the night air. So they just poof, they're gone. The drumming, the torches have been heard and seen a lot by people. First thing that you'll hear is the drumming, and then you'll smell the death-like odor of them. Apparently they stink too. So barriers placed do not deter them. Only the presence of tea plants can divert the marchers. So yeah, don't go walking on the beach at night. And there's some things about people talked. I'll put up all these websites for you in the description. There are night walkers, Mel said. I asked my grandfather that because I knew that when he built his house, he took the back section out because of the night walkers. They used to walk through the back end of the house. He explained to me that if you put anything in their path, they'll walk through it. So he took that section of the house out. He told me the direction they came to and where they go to. So that path was out the back window in the back of my bedroom and his bedroom. You see, my grandfather had, I think, was a 4-bedroom house. So when he would go sleep, he'd go inside his room. He'd close 2 doors and he'd stay on that side. So it's dark over there. can put your hand in front of you and you can't see your hand. When I asked him about the night walkers and my question to him, I said, I can see? He telling me, yeah, because you're Ohana family. It means that you're in the line. And I said, how will I know they're going to come? He says, you listen. And you're going to come from this side. They come from this side, and you can hear them coming, just like pans crackling. And you hear chains dragging. Have you ever heard chains dragging regarding ghosts? Like I said, so many similarities. Sure enough, I was sleeping and woke because I heard the sounds like Grandpa said. I stood by the window looking out, and there they were walking past outside my window, and they were walking and walking slowly. It was not spooky to me, just knowing I had family connection within these marchers. It kept me from being scared. After they went past, I had a sad thought. Is this what they do for the rest of time? They emanated from Honokoa Gulch and walked by my grandfather's house and the fish pond towards, forgive me if I mispronounce this, Pu'ukahola Heiawa. I don't know the path back, but Honokoa Gulch is known as the Valley of the Chiefs and Warriors. They have a little map here. It shows the area that they march in. There are a couple of notions on this. Another person named Hannah explains. Sometimes we hear the term Pokane Po being night, Kane being one of the nights of the Hawaiian lunar calendar. At night, there's no moon, and we hear, especially when I was growing up in territorial Hawaii, Pokane. Those were the night marchers. But if we look to convention of the pre-contact area on the night when the moon casts no shadow, they might go out and do certain activities that done during daylight cause them to cast a shadow, and there'd be a whole set of protocols. So there's something about you can't do some things if there's a shadow, I guess. Interesting. Okay. Now, here's an interesting side as I look at your... Hi, M.A. See in here? Hi. Interesting thing that, like I was saying, so many of these stories are very similar to others. I can find it. There's more legends as this, but I picked the most interesting ones. But there was something that happened. Somebody submitted to Ghost Stories, Paranormal Stories, blogspot.com, and it's titled, I Have Seen the Night Marchers. And this story is sent by Crystal. Night marchers are primarily a Hawaiian legend, but this story comes from the Netherlands, Antilles, so that's got to be strange. And let me read this to you because it's quite interesting. One night, me and a boyfriend and another couple went to the beach to have fun. The other couple drove themselves, and soon we were in our own cars. Suddenly, I see torches on top of the mountain. I figure campers were up there or people doing voodoo. I did not know they did voodoo in the Netherlands. I did not think anything of it. As I look further, I see people walking from on top of the hill, coming down in a large zigzag winding march. It was so dark, I could not see where they were coming from, but there were a lot of them walking down the hill to the beach. They also walked in a perfect line, but not like military style, as if something was keeping them herded together. Each being was walking and talking like they were strolling along the beach. They seemed young and cool looking and dressed. They must have been more than 1 million of them. The boyfriend I was with from the area asked if those hill folks were walking from was passable by humans. They said, no, only goats can get up there. I said, okay, so they're not humans. Maybe they are friendly. I told them as I was trying to look at the leader in the eye to gauge if he was friendly or not. To my surprise, he came straight at me. I saw his eyes were like fire. There was a flame where the pupil was in their eyes. And apparently they were in their car. So I told my friend to step on it. We were trying to get away. I remember being in the car driving away, not looking back, but I do not remember anything after that. I do not remember talking to my friends afterwards. I do not remember getting home or how I got home. I just do not remember. The only reason why I remember anything at all was because after several years after the incidents, I had returned to the area. I was at a vacation home and was terrified of something. I could not sleep. I had no idea why I couldn't sleep, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was so scared. Her memory apparently came back. To this day, my friends that were with me do not remember that night either. Most interesting thing about this is that after that night, we were all scattered away from each other. I lived in Texas, my other friend in St. Martin. The other one lives in Curaçao, the other in the Netherlands. So it's like, it was a very bizarre experience. And she said they looked alive except for the flame in their eyes. So, I mean, what does that tell you? But Pokani to the less informed ear are men of the night, according to another Hawaiian talking about it. So there's this tradition, and there's that whole set of protocols. If you're set upon by that set of walkers, you prostrate yourself. That means face down on the ground. You're to give utterance to your genealogy. And if your genealogy is recognizable to those who are walking, you are spared the thrashing you might get otherwise. So they might just like beat on you, apparently, if you're not of the right family. And there's another account, well, Kula Uke, or whatever their name is. Their names are like, I'd have to get used to saying them. When he went to Keawaiki to stay, there's no electricity, there's no water, there's no nothing. So the nighttime is very dark. And I remember being on the beach, we could look upwards at the mountain. You can feel the wind, and the wind, you can smell the goats coming, a very strong smell. Smelly goats. We'd lay on the beach, we'd look at the stars and count stars, yada, yada. Okay, the usual things. And I remember seeing lights around the inland and would always ask my dad, what is that? He'd say, oh, those are the night marchers. And then we'd hike on the trail. Sometimes we'd go hiking, maybe the afternoon. If you see something or feel something on you, he says, just get off the trail. Turn your back to the trail. Put your heads down. Because he had felt uncomfortable at different times on the trail. So if you walk on the trail that they use, you might feel weird. Hi, Maria. No. Are you having now, Scott, don't abuse your hammer or your wrench or whatever it is. It should be a hammer, don't you think? I think a hammer is more. Anyway, so yeah, the dragon thing. I didn't know Hawaii had a dragon, but it is relatively close to the Asians, Chinese, Japan, so it's hard to know. I don't know genetically what the Hawaiians have. They're probably a mixture too. They certainly are now, but before, Europeans came there, I don't know if they also had Chinese in them or Japanese in them or whatever. I know we know enough not to assume that people didn't travel by boat considerable distances. We know this is true. So who knows what legends and things were shared. So I don't know. So you want to hear stories on the Black-Eyed Kids? Oh, I got them. I even have podcasts I can share with you about Black-Eyed Kids. Oh, you don't listen late at night. That's creepy. Yeah, I had a friend who's passed, but he went to the UK, and he believed he had a past life as a Roman soldier, and he saw Roman soldiers when he was there. And people have seen Roman soldiers marching along narrow pathways in London area. Um, so this is going to be, something we hear about. And I know the UK has a lot of these night marcher kind of things going on because of the occupation of the Romans, and perhaps other groups as well. So it might be interesting to research other places that have these stories. Hopefully they're just residual, but I mean, they seem to repeat in the Hawaii. They're very serious about, not looking at them and, making sure you're part of the family, I guess. So black-eyed kids, huh? Who else wants to hear about black-eyed kids? Let me see a vote of hands here, because you got to really want to hear about them if I'm going to do it. Okay, well, I'm here. Well, because it's I have a lot of stuff on black-eyed children, and maybe what I should do is a video on them, because then I can show pictures and stuff like that. I'll get a revenge wrench. I thought I gave you a wrench, MA. Didn't I give you one? There, now you can fight it out. I just gave him a wrench. This could be fun. Well, I just gave it to him on this one too, so he should have that. Yeah. If he posts again, you'll see him with a wrench. MA, your kids are just so adorable. I love watching them, and they're so smart and so bubbly. So watch MA's his kids. It's just they're just, if you need a little bright spot of your day, just watch them. They're just absolutely the cutest things on the planet. And of course, Bald Gamer has either on DLive or YouTube. You can watch him be the worst gamer on the internet. Although he's getting better. He's getting better. He does all kinds of different video games. And we have, of course, we have a chat room where we can chat with each other and be all kinds of funny. So, and well, all things being equal, as they say. Well, so I mean, if you can support each other with your channels, that's really nice. Simon has a racing thing, and he's getting good. He's getting good racing against other people on the internet. I mean, it's people against people, people versus people here. You want me to give everyone a wrench in here? I can do that. Yeah, Grandpa Gaming. I don't think he calls it that, Scott. I don't think he calls it Grandpa Gaming. But he came in, when he came in first or second, he won, I think, a race. Yeah. Support each other with your channels. I try to as much as I can. And I will have to be doing a live stream. Oh, he did not do well today. Some of those drivers up and just decide they're just going to take them out. And they don't care if they lose doing it. They just take out UK Gadget Man. You know. Oh my gosh. I also want to do, you hear about angel numbers and stuff. I want to do something about numbers as well, just because it's interesting. You see a lot of people just, jump into that particular idea. And I want to learn a little more about it. So, but black-eyed children, I think that might be the next video I do. It might be. Because, man, there is a lot of stuff. A lot of people have seen them. And that's just like, my gosh, that's just great. Everyone's seen them. No fun. All right. Well, I think I'm going to say his tires were off. What was wrong with... You don't want to see a black-eyed child because there's repercussions to seeing them. Yeah, I'll have to be considerate. I'll do it on an earlier stream. So I don't want to give you nightmares. If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. No, if you run into the black-eyed children, some very bad things can happen. Don't let them in. They can't come into your house unless you invite them, and they're like a vampire or a demon. It's like not good. They've survived, but they've had health issues and stuff like that happen to them if they let them in. So, I got stories. Yeah, and like I said, there seems to be a connection to Men in Black and aliens and stuff like that. So, anyway. Another thing about the Night Watchers, there's enough people that apparently, according to one submitter, Night Watchers and the Menehune are still there. We had a Japanese friend, Kanashiro, and he used to take care of the Browns' house in Kiyawaki. And they said the house was built on a Hawaiian trail. And there were some days he'd come to our house in the morning and he was just so upset. He'd come in and mom and dad talking. He was Japanese, but he could speak Hawaiian. He was just talking in Hawaiian. Then he got done cursing or whatever. He would just say, says he woke up in the morning. He was outside of the house. What happened? They marched through the house and actually carried him out, put him out in the yard. And they did this several times. They took him out of the house and just set him. They didn't hurt him. It's like, get out of here. They just threw him out of the house. Be careful, never cross the Night Marchers. Yeah, there's theories that the black-eyed children are demons. Some people think that. I'm thinking, well, what other form is the most vulnerable to have a little child at your door, in the middle of the night with no parent nearby? Yeah. I hope to get to go to Hawaii sometime, but I'm certainly not going to bring any rocks back with me. It's like if you weren't nice to Robert the Doll, it would cause you bad luck and you have to send a letter of apology back to him. Oh my gosh, you guys are funny. People watching this need to watch the chat, because that's the most entertaining part of my video, of my live streams, is the chat half the time. Well, I better get off before before this room blows up. You want to talk some more? I don't know. Let's see. Now, we know, in those of us who believe we are shifting, that we have the Mandela effect. Okay. And a lot of people think we're, out of our minds, whatever, which is their prerogative. But I've noticed, as we shift along, a lot of things that were myths and legends are being seen and are being manifested into this reality. So in that sense, I'm thinking that as we go along timelines, that can be really weird. That suddenly, I wouldn't be surprised if they, find things that were myths that are now real. I think that's a lot of things with the Mandanimals. Some of them are just crazy, freaky, weird looking things. And I'm waiting for the pink elephant to show up. Most all creatures now have what's the expression? My daughter uses it. She's a biologist. It has to do with, I know part of the word, but I don't know the whole word. I need to put another battery in my mouse. I can't see him. It's Leu, Leuc. Anyway, I can't find what the actual word is. It's when creatures, they're not albino, but they're like the light version. They're like, you'll see the turtle that looks orange and white, and you'll see other animals that are white, but they don't have the pink eyes. We're seeing everything have a version that's very rare, genetic version of the animal that lacks the normal pigmentation. So it's only a matter of time before we have pink elephants. We already have, I remember when the white buffalo was very rare, and it was very important to the Native Americans because it was so rare, and it was a foretelling of spiritual ascending of their tribe or the world, it had a lot of different meanings. There was always very, very good thing going on. But now there's a lot of white buffalo, or bison, actually, what they are. There already is a pink elephant. But I think we're going to see, and it's only a matter of time before unicorns are real, I already have some things that look sort of like that. Mermaids. There is the weirdest thing. It's the underside of a kind of whale that looks like a woman's shape with legs and everything. It's the underside of a whale. It's like, that looks weird. Another big night out. Everyone's having more fun than I am. That's all I got to say. Okay, Mr. Balo, go find that pink elephant and send me the picture. It better not be something dirty. Yeah, yeah. And nowadays there's like a lot of white buffaloes. It used to be rare. It used to be rare. And it's like what the frick? It's bizarre. Let me see what that's about. I have to look on a different page for that one. Go link in an open link in new tab. Ah, yeah, that's a pink elephant. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's amazing. I'm going to have to save that to strange stuff. I have little folders I put things in. Wow. Oh, what I mean, you. It's probably a picture of me, Claire. No, it's a real pink elephant. It's like, yeah, you see, that's that version of, now that may be an albino elephant. I mean, it looks like it's albino, so that's bound to happen sometimes. But now everything seems to have a white version, which never used to. So here we've gone the gamut of Hawaiian legends to pink elephants, black-eyed children, dragons. We should have a talk just on dragons all over the world because, like you said, Hawaii didn't seem to have a dragon before. I bet everywhere are there dragons in Palau, QB? Just wait. You'll have one. If they're starting to pop up everywhere, we're going to see that. It'll be a little one, though, because you're a little island. So it won't be a real big dragon. But you do have that ancient culture on there that nobody seems to know anything about now. So maybe there'll be a myth that a dragon helped them build it or something. Her beautiful island that she lives on. Just really, I know there's the flying fox, which is a bat. And you see them online, they're really cute. How big of a bat? How big are we talking, QP? How big was this bat? Like a giant bat? Is this a mythology or supposed to be real or? Oh yeah, that stone money. Mythology. Yeah, that stone money is interesting. It was even worth something if it fell in the ocean. They said they knew it was there and they knew the sacrifice it took, so it had a certain value. Even though they didn't have it on the island, they knew they had it in the boat. And if they lost it, it's still considered part of the money and it would be exchanged and whatever. Even though they didn't actually lift up the stone money and use it. It was all written in some way or recorded in some way. Giant bat stew, yum. That just sounds so appetizing. You know, they're not a rodent, by the way. Bats are not rodents, as my daughter firmly told me. Yeah, Kewpie's not. I don't think she eats that much. I don't think she ate all the giant bats into extinction. Well, you could like do like the Hawaiians do, like skin it and put it in a pit with rocks and cover it up and bake it all day. And the skin on the wings can be used to make things. I know that bats look like they're rodents, but they're not. They're in a class by themselves. Put pineapple on them. Everything's better with pineapple on it, right? Yeah, they are. And my daughter, she's actually she's certified to work with bats, which took quite a bit of work and field work to get. And so they do mist netting and stuff like that, and measure them and stuff like that in certain parts of the state here. And I don't know if they do that down. She just got back from Belize for 2 weeks. And I haven't had a chance to really chat with her about what she did down there. They're usually getting a lot of insects, and they do check out the bats and stuff like that. So the white nose syndrome that seems to be attacking the bats in the United States is very concerning, because the bats are an important part of our ecosystem, and it's impacting the populations quite badly. So they do a lot of studies trying to find out what they can find about the bats and how to help them with this particular fungus that they're getting. I had a bat once. I tried to land on my head, when I was a kid. It, must have thought I was an insect. Well, there would be no tequila without bats. You know that, right? There's a particular bat that fertilizes or helps to fertilize the agave that they make tequila out of. And it's the only thing that fertilizes the flower. So no, they just probably poop on your head, Scott. You must be a target for pigeons. Anyway, you guys are so funny. Can I go now? It's almost time for obsolete, I guess, isn't it? Let me look. Does he let us know when he's going to be on? Okay. Is this a better time for people for me to be on the live chat, by the way? Because I can change when I do my chat. Okay. And it seems I'm not competing with so many of the group that are doing things. I'm dismissed. I'm sorry. Well, I'll ask him when he likes to go on. We'll coordinate. So I'll try to not step on him and coordinate when I do mine. Because I'm sure my time is easier to change than his, because he has family and people who give a care about him now. Whereas I'm pretty much, I have my kids and that's it. So, Goldilocks. Oh, that's horrible, Claire. Say you're sorry. Say you're sorry. Well, my dears, I'm going to go. I have to do shopping today. So, Goldilocks. That's horrible. That's horrible. We all love Scott and all that. We don't want him to be hurt. Of course, since he's bald, it just all runs off anyway, right? Well, you all take care, and I'll talk to Simon and find out what's a good time for him, and we'll try to balance it so you guys don't have to choose between him and me. I mean, it's a hard choice, really. Well, as they say, God only made so many perfect heads, and the rest they covered with hair. So, thank you for coming in. I hope that it was enjoyable. Hope you learned something. That if you ever go to Hawaii, you know what to do, what not to do. You hear those night marchers, you fall flat on your face and you pray till your heart pops. Yeah, that they don't take you away or throw you out of the house or whatever. Good night, everybody. Bye bye.